let's start with one sentence to IPB. The International Peace Bureau is the eldest and biggest international peace organization. Founded 1 year after IPU, nämlich in 1891, and it has today more than 400 member organizations in about 80 countries in the world. And the main project of IPB is military spending. We organize every year around the days when ZIPRE is announcing the new military spending figures, the so-called GDAMs, General Days Against Military Spending. This year, with about 180 actions in about 50 countries. So saying this, it was obviously when Dan asked us if we can support the idea of the fourth special session, we said immediately yes, because this is absolutely on the line of our work and our activity. Why is IPB so deeply engaged in the military spending issue? To say it in short terms, first of all, colleagues from us were a part of the team which were developing the Sustainable Development Goals. And you remember, some of you will remember, 2 years after the Sustainable Development Goals were adopted, there was a conference in Addis Ababa discussing how to finance the Sustainable Development Goals. The UN said it costs about 300 billion per year for 10 years. And then there was a meeting. 160 countries were attending, a lot of suggestions. Taxes for airplanes, taxes for education, and. But only one country at that time was mentioning military reduction, military disarmament. Only one country from these 160. And this shows how urgent is the need for our activities. We have to raise awareness that we cannot solve the global problems of the world without military spending, that we cannot solve the climate catastrophe without military spending. You know, like me, the UN fund, 100 billion. How much the countries were paying this year? 37 billion. And we are paying or spending 2 trillion for military spending. That is the reality. So this shows how urgent it is. And to say a final word to the, I call it social tsunami, which we'll have in this autumn in many, many countries in the world, not only in Europe, mainly in the so-called the South. How we can solve the social problems in the world without military spending? By using the money, but not only by using the money, but also we need the cooperation between the countries. And can you imagine that under the situation of confrontation, we will come to cooperation, military spending reduction? No. So we need cooperation. That is the need that we are so much in favor of this fourth session of the UN. And you know, it is even more important. The third session was in the year 1987. Can you remember this year? You know, I think the last days with the death of Gorbachev reminds us to these days. It was a time of cooperation and common work of the main countries in the world. And even at that time, we could not really reach deep step of disarmament. And now, by 2 trillion, and the situation in the world how it is, we need even more urgent to overcome this confrontation situation, go to cooperation and disarmament. So this is the urgency for me to say that we need this fourth session and that we are supporting this idea so highly. And you know, we want to bring one idea to you which is related to this fourth session. Because fourth session is great, but what is the ongoing process? And we ask us why we don't have a COP process for disarmament. We have in November, the COP27 in Cairo to climate change with limited successes. But we have a process. We have a process, a COP process for diversity. But we don't have a COP process for disarmament. And I think we need this COP process, which means annual meetings, but not only annual meetings of the governments, but also annual meetings supported by the civil society, the peace movement, the parliamentarians, and other social movements pushing for nuclear disarmament. We need these processes because then we always can bring it again to the public and raise awareness for disarmament. And we are always urged to look for cooperation and coalition buildings. And my question to NAM was the question, what will be the coalition of the future for disarmament? And I think we need these coalitions, maybe not with all NAM countries, but with the big majority of the NAM countries for going a step forward for nuclear disarmament. So our suggestion is, yes, we need these 4th sessions, but maybe we should bring in the discussion that we need these 4th sessions to create a process for disarmament in the United Nations. And you know, we had some successes by creating these processes. The process for the Treaty for the Prohibition of Nuclear Weapons was not falling from the heaven. It was prepared by big conferences in event. Norway, Mexico, and others. It was prepared by a common work of willingness countries and civil society. And from my point of view, we need the same for disarmament because of the urgency of this question. And maybe we can combine this and say, yes, we want to have a first highlight or first evaluation where we are in the year 2025, where we have the 50th anniversary of the KZE process, of the Helsinki process in Europe, which stimulate the process of cooperation and common security. So these are some of our ideas because we are thinking we need more actions on the street. That is the responsibility of the peace movement and other social movements. We need more awareness raising. These, I think, we had brilliant arguments today from the different parts of society. And we need a process in the United Nations, which hopefully starts with the first special session at the UN, but develop a process for further activities with nuclear disarmament. I have not to repeat the UN Secretary who was saying the urgency of it. I think it is urgent, and we have to put all our forces together to develop and to create these processes. Thank you.